When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Hospice of the Valley, medical, social, and spiritual care for patients nearing end of life, and support for their families. A not-for-profit community hospice, HOV.org.
Whitfill Nursery, proud to support Arizona PBS, a Valley tradition since 1946. Over 200 acres of Arizona-grown trees, citrus, and palms. Complete custom design and installation. And Whitfill Nursery still does the digging. WhitfillNursery.com.
From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
One of the biggest winners in election 2017, Valley Schools. After a long year of funding cuts, 27 Maricopa County districts get a funding boost from voters.
Plus, are voting rights under attack? What local politicians and activists are doing to put more power in the hands of minorities.
And one binational trade conference has Arizona leaders discussing ways to strengthen U.S. ties with Mexico.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Tyler Fingert.
And I'm Madison Connor. Thanks for joining us.
Preliminary election results are in for Maricopa County, and there is good news for school districts. For the first time in recent memory, voters approved all of the district bonds and budget overrides. Cronkite News reporter Erica Arrington joins us live with reaction.
I spoke to Mayor Greg Stanton, who said he expects to see bigger and greater things coming to our education system in the near future. Right now, though, districts are talking about how they will spend these new funds. With the results of all 27 schools' budget bonds and overrides approved, victories are being celebrated.
Well, it's really exciting that, for the first time ever, if the votes continue the way that they are looking to continue, that we'll have all of them passing in Maricopa County.
Erin Hart, CEO of Expect More Arizona, and her team work to make changes that will benefit education. School districts have plans for the funds. Those include teacher pay increases, adding art and kindergarten classes, and supplies such as textbooks and new computer labs. In the Phoenix Union High School District, Communication Director Craig Platenick says it's rewarding to see the increased investment in education.
It really shows that that our voters care about education. It's probably the #1 issue for them.
Platenick is happy that alongside wealthier communities, urban central schools also got attention in this election.
A lot of gratitude to the constituents to know that they value education, particularly in the central city.
Mayor Greg Stanton says Arizonans love their teachers, students, and staff and are willing to vote for those schools no matter what it takes. The voters seem to be putting more of an emphasis on education. Only about half the override proposals passed before 2015. In the Broadcast Center, Erica Arrington, Cronkite News.
Meanwhile, 5 Arizona schools are among 342 getting recognition as some of the best in the country. Washington Bureau reporter Fraser Allen Best attended the National Blue Ribbon ceremony put on by the U.S. Department of Education.
Seats were filled with mostly principals, administrators, and teachers, but Jason Phillips, principal of Arizona College Prep, says the thanks at his Chandler School goes to an even wider group.
We have parents that greatly support our program and teachers who are extremely dedicated to what they do every day, and we have students who really want to advance and get the best out of their education.
Education Secretary Betsy DeVos started the program with praise for the winners before the school's representatives filed across the stage. Arizona had 5 winning schools at the elementary, middle, and high school level. Jennifer Benjamin, the principal of Palm Valley Elementary School in Goodyear, says she gained a lot just being among other top educators.
Just get ideas and experiences from other places around the nation.
Phillips had a similar experience and said the lessons learned here will help in a state where schools can face funding challenges.
With the state finances, we have to do more. with, I don't know how else to say it, sometimes less. But I think with the quality teachers we have and the parents and the students, we always rise above.
In Washington, Fraser Allen Best, Cronkite News.
In addition to Palm Valley and Arizona College Prep, other state Blue Ribbon schools were Acacia Elementary in Vail, Franklin at Brimhall Elementary in Mesa, and Seton Catholic Preparatory in Chandler.
While education was at the forefront of elections here in the Valley, major governor and legislative races in New Jersey and Virginia are making headlines nationwide. East Coast Democrats have made a major rebound since President Trump's election. Phil Murphy won the governor's race in New Jersey, Ralph Northam won his governor's seat in Virginia, and Mayor Bill de Blasio cruised over into his second term as mayor of New York City. Democrats in Virginia are also sweeping through, changing red to blue in their state assembly.
Although the next presidential election is 3 years away, groups are already working to get more people registered to vote. Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein shows us how the ACLU and other groups are taking on this issue now.
Why voting rights are always under attack. It's a simple situation that our participation in the government is viewed as inherently dangerous because it shifts the power from pure white supremacy to just white supremacy light.
Michael Ingram of Black Lives Matter was among local politicians and activists speaking at a panel discussing defending the right to vote Saturday, especially for those who are in the minority. The panel addressed the history and potential solutions of the goals of voting rights work, including increasing voter registration turnout and reducing racial and class disparities in voting.
Every 4 years, I get 200 complaints about people not being able to vote. And I always say, the time to worry about your voting rights isn't right before the election. It's 2 years before the election even starts.
The panel says the Supreme Court has weakened voting rights, like in Shelby County versus Holder. In 2013, the court ruled Section 4B of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is unconstitutional. As a result, states have been able to change voting laws without federal oversight. According to ACLU, in 2016, 14 states had new voting restrictions in place. Arizona was one of those, with limitations on mail-in ballot collection. Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes says one way to reduce racial and class disparities in voting is through education.
Reaching out to a lot of folks that did not necessarily have folks coming out and talking to them. So we've had different focus groups in our office talking about the issues that are of interest to a bunch of different types of communities.
Fontes also says Maricopa County is working with other counties in Arizona to share resources. Ingram said at the panel, the best way to get people to vote is to work year-round.
A little bit of training, a little bit of investment, and then I can be a better advocate for my community than you ever can be. It's about an investment, and I'm going to be there year-round talking to my folks all the time.
In downtown Phoenix, Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.
The idea of voting centers in jails for people who have not been convicted was also discussed. Fontes says he'll have to coordinate with Sheriff Penzone, and while he decided to hold off on the idea for now while working on other implementations, he says the idea will be explored for future elections.
President Trump's nominee to lead the Department of Homeland Security appears to disagree with Trump on one of his key pet projects, the U.S.-Mexico border wall. Kirstjen Nelson was questioned by the Senate Homeland Security Committee today, and she said she would likely follow the agenda of her predecessor, John Kelly, which includes limiting Trump's proposed border wall.
There is no need for a wall from sea to shining sea. What we need to do is work with the operators. Should I be confirmed, I would look forward to speaking with state and local officials, those on the ground, both law enforcement and federal law enforcement, to include CBP, to understand where we need some sort of physical barrier. Okay. Technology, as you know, plays a key part, and we can't forget it.
Building a better economic relationship with Mexico. That was the subject of a national trade discussion earlier today. Arizona's Governor Doug Ducey discussed where Arizona stands in regards to the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA.
Arizona doesn't want to just sit on the sidelines and see what happens. We are advocating for what we want to see is a free and fair trade relationship with emphasis about how important this relationship and free trade is to the state of Arizona.
Mexico ambassador to the U.S., Jeronimo Gutierrez, added that it was a good time to be vocal and educate others about the benefits of the relationship between our two countries. Census data shows that Mexico is Arizona's top foreign trade partner, accounting for about 30% of all of the state's international exports.
Strokes aren't typically thought of as a young person's affliction.
However, the Centers for Disease Control are saying something different. Coming up on Cronkite News, how avoiding these risk factors can prevent you from having a stroke at an earlier age.
And how driverless vehicles will be taking over the streets in no time. What we learn what this self-driving service is doing to compete against other ride-sharing services.
Officially from 36, and he hooks it in. Arizona State wins. Keeping one deep, and it is caught. Jalen Strong. Do you believe it?
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Wow. Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
We are at a remarkable moment.
Yes.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
Arizona House Speaker J.D. Mesnard announced today that the House of Representatives has launched multiple investigations into reports of sexual harassment at the legislature. 2 female representatives have given interviews and made public comments about sexual advances they have experienced. In a statement, Mesnard wrote, "Those of us in government should be held to the highest standard, and any form of harassment will not be tolerated. I encourage anyone, whether it be legislators, staff, lobbyists, or others with allegations of sexual harassment at the legislature, to work with investigators." And this afternoon, Governor Doug Ducey tweeted his support for the investigation. He said the probe should be bipartisan and expanded if necessary. He wrote that there can be absolutely no tolerance for sexual harassment in the halls of our state capitol, or any organization, private or public.
Construction of sound barriers is now underway along the Loop 202 South Mountain Freeway. Crews will build walls along 11 miles that the freeway runs along neighborhoods in West Phoenix and Ahwatukee. Most walls will range between 16 and 20 feet in height and will have a horizontal line pattern designed in collaboration with the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. In all, the freeway's sound walls will include more than 1 million masonry blocks. The South Mountain Freeway is set to open in 2019. Waymo will allow the public to start riding in the fully self-driving vehicles in the next few months. Participants in Waymo's early rider program will be first to ride alone in the cars. For now, there will be no charge for these rides. The news is a step toward Waymo offering a paid service that competes with ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft.
It's an alarming trend in strokes. Since 2013, the age of those having strokes is falling. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control. Cronkite News reporter Ciel Delgado talks to Arizona's experts about how to reverse this trend.
Mike Murtha was 48 years old when he had a stroke that left him with a paralyzed right side and other problems.
I had a tracheotomy and a feeding tube, so it was fed through basically a bag through a tube into my body. I couldn't speak at that point. Couldn't move the arm or the leg.
Another Valley resident woke up in the middle of the night at age 50. Something was wrong.
My blood pressure went up to 25 over 193 that night. Constantly go to the doctor, and if you have high blood pressure, make sure you take your pills. Because I didn't know I had high blood pressure.
Risk factors like high blood pressure, smoking, and hypertension are what is now helping increase strokes in people who are younger than the usual stroke patient.
In the last decade or more, one trend that's starting to emerge is that in people under the age of 65, their risk factors are going up, not down. So we're seeing more hypertension, more diabetes, more obesity, and more people with multiple combinations of those risk factors.
The Centers for Disease Control says Arizona is one of 21 states and the District of Columbia where stroke deaths have increased since 2013. According to Dr. Jeremy Payne, it is hard to get younger people to start addressing the potential risk factors.
You have a conversation with a young person, say, about smoking. Realistically, that conversation may not pay off for 20 or 30 years. It's really difficult to get people's heads around the idea that behaviors now may not pay off until you're much older, but when they do pay off, they pay off in ways that we can directly measure.
I still can't live on my own. I can't take care of myself, can't put shoes and socks on, so it's very frustrating. I can't work a normal job at this point. I'm hoping that I will be able to eventually, but as I said, recovery is a very, very slow. Even if it's steady, it's still a very slow process.
Dr. Payne advises to get your blood pressure checked regularly, exercise, and eat nutritiously to help lower your risk factors. In Phoenix, Sierra Delgado, Cronkite News.
Think FAST to help detect a stroke. Look for face drooping, arm weakness, and speech difficulty. If you notice these signs, it's time to call 911 immediately.
Tonto National Forest is about to see some changes.
Park employees and activists alike have discussed recreational and environmental issues motivating the new changes.
But are everyone's concerns being heard? How the Tonto Forest Service is trying to balance recreation and preservation.
Temperatures are slowly dropping, and it might be time to bundle up. What temperatures to expect coming up?
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Changes could be coming to the Tonto National Forest. In a new proposal, recreational shooting areas could be restricted, but hunting and fishing areas could be expanded. Reporter Mia Atkins is live in downtown Phoenix to tell us how the Forest Service is trying to balance recreation with preservation.
Tonto National Forest officials held the first of 8 public meetings, all to give the public a chance to voice their opinion on what they want to see. Dozens of people showed up at the first open house in Mesa. Simone Netherlands is the president of the Salt River Wild Horse Management Group, one of the larger groups there. She believes the plan should protect the wild horses.
It's important that that's recognized and that they're not discriminated or anything affects them adversely, like perhaps pesticide use could affect them adversely.
The proposal covers topics from recreational shooting to hiking and fishing, but there are hundreds of topics within the nearly 3 million acres. Kelly Richards, a Tonto National Forest employee, says that's why the Forest Service is reaching out to the public to help them prioritize.
Being Forest Service employees, we've got our ideas, but we tend to not think outside the box on certain things. So it's great to get that input from the public too when they see certain things that maybe we didn't notice.
Mesa District Ranger Gary Hanna says many recreational shooters are concerned about the changes being suggested.
May need clarification on issues that affect them that we may have missed. Again, it's not our plan, it's our public's plan on how we want to manage their forest.
Netherlands and her horse activist group were excited about the opportunity to give their input and hope to make a difference for wildlife.
We're all interested in this subject. We're all interested in, we all have the best interest of the wild horses in mind, as well as the public does. So basically, you know, we're here to defend them and make sure anything in this proposal is good for them as well.
The meetings are held at various locations across the state. If you'd like to attend one of these meetings, just head to our website, cronkitenews.azpbs.org, to find more information. Live in downtown Phoenix, I'm Mia Atkins, Cronkite News.
This 80-degree weather sure has been a treat, but will these cooler temperatures be sticking around for the rest of the week, Madison?
Well, Tyler, it does seem like the fall weather is finally here to stay. Our high today is 82 degrees, but we are currently sitting at 81. There are some clouds in the sky and that humidity level is high, but as you can see, we are still well above that average temperature of 79. Now, looking at temperatures across the state, you see at 58 in the Grand Canyon and in Flagstaff, 57 in Show Low, and 80 down in Yuma. Here in the valley, however, we have 81 in Buckeye, 83 in Goodyear, and then the hottest area is the Gila Bend at 88. Now looking at our 7-day forecast, on Thursday we have a high of 86. Saturday, which is Veterans Day, we have a high of 84. And then the rest of the week we jump up on Monday to 87. On Wednesday we do drop back down to 82. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Madison Connor.
Still ahead on Cronkite News, a heart of service. This former Navy SEAL served his country, and now he's serving customers. How his time in the military led him to a new business.
This fall,
I'm so excited! What?
From the inspiring to the amazing.
You're in the presence of history.
The compelling.
He said, welcome home. It was just a powerful moment.
To the astounding.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
And from the breathtaking.
This is real.
A journey to Mars.
To the electrifying.
We're going to change the world.
All this and more. All this fall.
Oh my God!
Third Rail with Ozzy. The new weekly show where we tackle the taboo and debate the tough questions with some of the most interesting minds in the game. I'm Carlos Watson. Electrifying conversation. Friday, only on PBS.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
In honor of Veterans Day this Friday, a troop member turned businessman is giving back. Victory Coffee was found by former U.S. Navy SEAL Cade Courtley, and every 6 weeks he donates a couple £100 of his coffee to VA offices around the United States. Today, he's here in Phoenix. Courtley was a U.S. Navy SEAL platoon commander and sniper for 9 years. When he was deployed, his 10-minute coffee breaks got him through the tough times. That's why he started this coffee company based in Denver. But he travels every 6 weeks to different parts of the country to share his passion with fellow veterans. Some who are waiting hours to see doctors. He says that giving back also allows him to get the feeling of camaraderie that he misses from active duty.
Every time I do one of these things, I try and walk through and try and say hello to as many people as I can. I try and take that cup of coffee out of their hand that they're drinking and give them a piece of this stuff. And look, it's just an opportunity for me to re-engage with a group of folks I used to go to battle with.
Courtley didn't specify where he will be heading next, but will most likely continue moving west.
Visitors have been leaving mementos at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington almost since the day it was dedicated in 1982. Those items now number more than 250,000. But unlike any other memorial in Washington, these items are carefully preserved. Washington reporter Bailey Vogt explains.
On a cold November morning at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, Howie Howe comes to see his two foster brothers' names on the memorial wall and to leave photos in memory of one.
One of him and one of us at the last reunion when there were 4 of us still above the ground. Now we're down to 3.
Visitors like Howe leave items at the wall every day to honor a loved one whose name is here among the fallen from that war.
I think a lot of people are, really come here and they leave what's heartfelt, and I think that would be a comfort to them to know that it wasn't just dumped in a dumpster someplace.
Well, those items might not stay there forever. They're not going to be destroyed either. Instead, they're going to be taken to a facility in Maryland where they'll be cataloged for historical purposes. The items are brought to this National Park Service warehouse in Landover, Maryland. Museum curator Jan Fulkerts oversees the cataloging and preservation of the estimated 200 to 250,000 items.
This is a secure and environmentally controlled facility, and we keep the items that are left at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in storage here.
Those items come from all over the map in more ways than one. From Arizona alone, Fulkerts shows items ranging from an APH-5 flight helmet to postcards, from hats to stuffed animals. Fulkerts says that the main focus of the collection is to keep a record of the stories that the Vietnam War created, no matter how incomplete they are.
What we get is what we get, but we get so many different stories and so many different things that it really tells so much of what happened in Vietnam and what's happening since, and why the memorial is important to different people.
Howe agrees, saying that he appreciates what leaving an item at the wall allows for those who lost loved ones during the war.
People leave things that they don't necessarily be understood by others, but they're significant to them for whatever reason.
On the National Mall, Bailey Vogt, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's ahead on PBS NewsHour.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, join Miles O'Brien as he explores how Cuba seeks to cash in on its diverse wildlife through ecotourism. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Past floods of unimaginable power.
No one has ever witnessed anything even close in scale.
Floods that completely change the face of the planet.
The search for evidence. Will they come again? Killer Floods on Nova.
Tonight at 8 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University. Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World.
Hi, I'm Judy Woodruff, co-anchor of the PBS NewsHour. Preparing the next generation of journalists has never been more important than it is now. With its groundbreaking partnership with Arizona PBS, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at ASU is revolutionizing journalism education to provide students with a real opportunity to work and learn under the supervision of veteran journalists, producers, directors, and editors on newscasts, investigative stories, and documentary productions. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, reinventing journalism education in the digital age.
Coming soon to Arizona PBS.
Many veterans are haunted by their wartime experience.
After surviving a war, we see them drink themselves to death, we see them commit suicide.
and we've got to stop that.
It really came to me that I need to do something now to help myself.
They plan to walk about 2,700 miles.
Join two soldiers on their life-changing journey.
They're coming down the road.
Almost Sunrise on POV.
Monday night at 11:30 on Arizona PBS.
Next time on the Vietnam War.
Morale just could not have been worse. Nobody wanted to go.
A new American president inherits an increasingly unpopular war.
The only thing that's important to the American people is how many American kids died.
And at Kent State, a protest turns deadly.
If we could kill our own students, what had happened to our country?
When the Vietnam War continues.
Tuesday night at 8 on Arizona PBS. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Ironwood Cancer and Research Centers. Personalized cancer care through medical oncology, radiation, and radiology services, focusing on emotional, physical, and social support. Outsmarting cancer, one patient at a time.
Yupa's Thai Kitchen in Tempe features fresh, authentic Thai cuisine and vegetarian Thai dishes served in a homeland-style decor atmosphere. Open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Information at 480-839-0576.
Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, more accusations of sexual harassment against a state lawmaker. Also tonight, we'll speak with noted anti-racism educator Jane Elliott. And we'll hear about a music festival highlighting emerging artists. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Microsoft's Bill Gates has invested $80 million into a huge chunk of land on the western edge of the Phoenix area. A group controlled by a Gates investment company bought a big stake in the nearly 25,000-acre development near the White Tank Mountains. Plans include up to 80,000 homes and thousands of acres of industrial and business space with a projected population similar to Tempe's. The land also includes a 5-mile stretch of a planned interstate running from Mexico up to Reno. 6 women at the state capitol are accusing Representative Don Shooter of harassment. The women allege that the 65-year-old Republican from Yuma made sexually charged comments and engaged in unwanted touching. Joining us now